Welcome to Talking Giants, presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick. And we're going to look at some cornerbacks today, some press corners. A very physical group, Justin. We'll talk about them. Joe Schoen had his pre-draft presser, and there's some Darius Slayton news. Justin, how are you doing?
Bobby, I'm good. Yeah, there's been a lot of corners in previous years where we've talked about, this guy isn't physical enough, isn't physical enough, isn't big enough. So I'm excited to talk about these guys. Corner's probably the position on the Giants that needs bodies the most, right? Maybe outside of safety that just needs bodies, but a corner's a way more premium position than safety. I'd
say corner's a bigger need than safety.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, they truly need a cornerback too, right? And that's an assumption that Deontay Banks is going to step forward to be a good CB1. Obviously showed really good flashes last year, but does he just has to make that step, which is a good projection, but also not a given.
This is how you know the Giants need a cornerback, because Nick McLeod got a pre-draft spring workout article of this guy may be your CB2 this year. I forget who wrote it, but I got a kick out of that. Oh, we're getting articles on Nick McLeod in April, huh?
Yeah, but here's the thing with the cornerback, and I do want to talk about Slayton and the Schoen presser. Is that with this group, Justin, anytime you're going through like the simulators and stuff, they're never really at like the top of my board for like best player available. And it's usually not even like the top three. They're usually like, okay, who's available here? Corner's like probably like the 8th or 9th best player for me here at 47 and then pick 70. And then we know they're not going to do it at 6 unless they were the trade back, which we'll entertain that for the first guy we talk about in Quinyon Mitchell. But it is like you said, it's truly a physical group. Like all the guys we're talking about reach the 30-inch, arm threshold. Well, not all of them, but most of them. And these guys play press, which like you said, in other years it's kind of tough because they'll be sitting in these cover 3, hang type of defenses, and it's like, man, it's hard to figure out exactly what you're capable of because you haven't been asked to do a whole lot besides cover 1/3, the deep thirds of the field. So. Interesting. So, but I am not in love with the day 2 corners in this class.
They clash, huh? Yeah, it seems like I really like Max Melton. Seems like he's not going to be around for pick 70, and pick 47 is too rich. And then by the time there's some day 3 guys that the Giants had some 30 visits with, like the kid from the kids from Washington State and the kid from Colorado, but then you're talking about, well, those guys aren't going to play right away and they can't start right away, and you can't expect them to be good right away because they're day 3 players. So they're in a little bit of a funky scenario at corner for sure.
But I do think corner after quarterback is their highest position for top 30 visits with 4 of them.
Yeah.
And that's without them being in the first round corner market that they've done that. So it's clearly a position that they're trying to get somebody with, and looking at some guys. Justin, before we get into all that, Darius Slayton, he did not show up to the phase 1 of the Giants offseason activities. They're obviously voluntary because he's looking for an extension. And I have a few thoughts on this, because the Giants could be in a very weird spot with their wide receiver room if they draft one at 6, is that, first, I have no problem with any player missing voluntary workouts when it's contract related. Even mandatory minicamp, if you're really trying to get a contract, like I don't mind you missing that. It's training camp when that happens. And I don't think anyone foresees Darius Slayton being someone who's going to hold out in training camp.
Yeah. It's also the third year of the system too, so.
Yeah, he would lose too much money. Like it's fine. Like I have no problem with that. Slayton should try and capitalize after he, took a pretty team-friendly deal and took a pay cut in 2022. So, but the Giants wide receiver, we've talked about this with Jalin Hyatt, is that if they draft a wide receiver at 6, which I think is more likely than not at this point, you have a very weird dynamic in that wide receiver room where Darius Slayton is clearly better than Jalin Hyatt after this past season. But you did invest a good amount in Jalin Hyatt to go, you were willing to take him at pick 57 if John Michael Schmitz wasn't there. And you don't want to put that guy on the bench. You're not going to put him in the actual slot role over Wan'Dale Robinson, where Jalin Hyatt would be on the bench with the hope to grow into the player that, can surpass a Darius Slayton, to where I actually, as much as I've been like Slayton supporter number one, I would explore trades for that, but I would have a very high bar of what would get, like, to me, anything less than a third is not worth trading Darius Slayton on that cheap contract.
No, because I do think the Giants should take advantage of Darius Slayton being on, even though his contract was backloaded on a 2-year deal, it's still $8.15 million. Bobby, I think both of us think that if he hits the open market now, if the Giants release him, he gets $10 million. You did a little quick study going through 32 NFL teams. How many teams do you think Darius Slayton would be a number 2 wide receiver on?
I went 18 of 32, and obviously this was before the draft, before teams, draft some wide receivers, and that can obviously change things. But like I just went through it, and I really think that holds up. Like, let's talk about Buffalo Bills, yes. Miami Dolphins, no. Patriots, yes. Jets, yes. Cowboys, no. Giants, yes. Eagles, no. Commanders, maybe.
I'm going to interrupt you with the Jets because I think Mike Williams is better, but okay.
I would rather, maybe he's better, but I would rather have Darius Slayton than Mike Williams.
Yeah,
I hate that signing for the Jets. Ravens, yes. Bengals, no. Browns, no. Steelers, yes.
Yes.
Bears, no. Lions, yes. Packers, no. Vikings, no. This is Mike Francesa going through the Yankees schedule right now. Texans, no. Colts, maybe. I'd rather have Slayton than Darius Slayton or Josh Downs. Jags, I'll just say no for the Jags. Titans, no. Falcons, yes. I would rather have Slayton than Darnell Mooney, but that's debatable. Panthers, yes. Saints, yes. Bucks, no. Broncos, yes. Chiefs, yes. Raiders, no. Chargers, yes. Cardinals, yes. Rams, no. 49ers, no. Seahawks, no.
There you go.
Like, that's a good, like, he'd be valuable. And wide receivers have been traded. Now, the most recent ones have been later picks, like the Jerry Jeudy trade. There was somebody else. But in 2022, Chase Claypool went for pick 33. Jalen Reagor went for a 4th and a 7th round pick. So a 3rd round pick is possible. I don't think that they would get that, but I wouldn't trade him for anything less than that, because if you really want to just move off of him to get an asset and you're going to plan on letting him walk, well, then you should just do that at the trade deadline. The same deal, if not better, will be there at the trade deadline for Darius Slayton. And then you would know for sure, is Jalen Hyatt someone we can trust to be a wide receiver too?
Right. And do we have a reliable wide receiver room where guys are healthy and everybody's, booming and banging? Where every year I feel like we just have the conversation of, oh, well, Darius Slayton is expendable. We don't need Slayton here. Well, he costs us the drops here, the drops there, blah, 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 blah. And then we're going to have Tony Galladay, XYZ, and have this guy step up. And it just never, every single year of Slayton's career, I think of outside of one, it's just never been the case where the Giants have desperately needed him. And we are saying at the end of every year, imagine if we didn't have Darius Slayton as part of the passing offense, how bad it would be.
And it's already been bad.
Yeah.
So Slayton's a good player. Obviously not a wide receiver one or anything. Ideally would be like the 3rd best wide receiver, but that's you don't live in an ideal world in the NFL.
No, you don't.
And especially on the New York Giants. So I would hope Slayton stays. If they do go quarterback in 1st round, I would look to try and extend Darius Slayton. Obviously, I'm not giving him the Jerry Jeudy contract or anything, but I would look to try and get something done now, and hope to save instead of him hitting the open market.
Right.
After this season, because if you draft a quarterback, like, you cannot, like, your wide receiver is like, you don't have that wide receiver one, and you can't send out Hyatt, Hodgins, and Wandale, or a 2nd round pick with Bellinger and Devin Singletary as your weapons. That's a horrible. It's already not a good situation to put a quarterback in, but it's a horrible one to put him in. So I don't think Slayton's going anywhere. I don't think he's getting an extension. But it is interesting that he decided to skip these voluntary workouts.
So he missed out. The workout bonus was $350,000. He missed out on that?
I don't think yet. I think if he misses all the rest of them, he would miss out on it.
Okay. All right. So that's something to keep an eye out on. An eye out for. If he misses enough practices to all right, I'm going to go without this $350,000, then I'll think he's a little bit more serious about this holdout. But if he eventually shows up to collect the $350K, then I'm like, all right, well, you're here, you're going to be here. I think it's going to work itself out.
Yeah, Slayton's not missing any training camp. I would guess that he shows up to get that bonus, like you said. So,
Shane also,
anytime there's anything like that, there's a huge reaction. But I think it's a pretty standard thing. The Giants just haven't really had any of the players who have like outperformed their contract to like, to be like, hey, maybe I should get a little extension. That just hasn't happened for the Giants, really.
Shane also did mention today in the presser that he kind of indicated that he's expecting Slayton to play on his contract. So
yeah, I think that's where we all think this is headed. But it did open up a scenario to talk about where if they draft Neighbors, like you could explore without the idea of just moving off of Darius Slayton.
Right.
Other things from Joe Shane's press conference is that I commend the reporters for finding 20 different ways to ask about quarterback and drafting quarterbacks and Daniel Jones and trading and do you need like I don't think they asked any question that wasn't like at least somewhat related to the quarterback position. I was blown away.
Nothing about Bowen and how, maybe you're looking at things differently with Bowen than Wink. That's something I'm interested in. Nothing about that.
No, nothing. And he's answered those questions. So I did like
at the combine. Yeah.
I like somebody. I think it might have been Paul Schwartz who did ask the question that I want to ask. Is like, hey, you've talked about how it's a deep quarterback class. They had Bo Nix and Spencer Rattler in for 30 visits last minute, and being like, those guys usually don't work out. And he acknowledged, that for that position, it's a very low hit rate in those rounds. But if you do, you're hoping they become a backup and they're a cost controlled backup quarterback. Unlike Drew Lock and Tyrod Taylor. But I think teams that have true blue franchise quarterbacks should be the ones doing that, where they can we can save a little bit money with our backup QB situation. I don't think the Giants should be drafting a day 3 quarterback trying to save some money on their backup spot.
And there's also just way too many holes on the roster anyway, that they shouldn't be allocating more to a backup quarterback.
Yeah, they already have a backup quarterback that they're paying a good amount of money in Drew Lock. If they draft a quarterback, draft it to be a franchise quarterback, not a day 3 take a swing on a guy. Even round 2, I'm against that. He didn't really give up much. He did say that a bunch of teams have called to trade down. I don't really forecast that. So you really didn't learn much of anything for it. He's not going to be super truthful about the things he shouldn't be, and he wasn't super revealing on the things that he could be. So, all right, you want to talk about these damn Connors?
Yeah, you want to talk about something first? Just bang it out.
No, I just want to do it correctly. I don't want to bang it out because I love SeatGeek. They're our presenting sponsor. I love them for that. Very appreciative of that we are a show that has a presenting sponsor. Thank you to SeatGeek. Baseball season is back, and SeatGeek is hooking us up with a new special offer for the month of April. Whoa! Everyone can use code GIANTS10 for 10% off any tickets on SeatGeek, whether you're a new customer or not.
Oh, shit, that's huge. It's new.
Yeah, it's not just like first time, first purchase. Like you could get 10%, like, hey, Knicks playoffs, Rangers playoffs, those tickets are 10% is a nice little chunk. And SeatGeek is going to find you the best deals on there. With the green dots and the red dots, go for the green dots. So that's good. I'm hoping to get to an Orlando Magic playoff game. They'll be playing in Orlando while I'm in New York City, so we'll see if they get to a game 6 or what. But I am hoping to get to an Orlando Magic game, and I'm going to use Giants10 as that code in April. Baseball season is officially here, and artists like Drake, Hozier, and Bad Bunny are on tour. You already know that SeatGeek is the best place to get tickets. No matter how many times you bought tickets using SeatGeek before, and I've used it a lot, Giants10 is going to get you 10% off your next order. So take out your phone, whip it out, open that SeatGeek app, and add code GIANTS10 to your account. What are you waiting for? Do it now, because this offer is only available through the end of April. Code GIANTS10 for 10% off your next order. You'll be glad you did.
I know you're a Bad Bunny guy.
I No disrespect to Miss Bunny. I'm not a Bad Bunny guy.
And you know what? I was going to ask you, do you know what male or female? Do you know if Bad Bunny is? You said Bad Bunny's a woman?
It's a man?
It's a man. And I also found that out the hard way when Bad Bunny was playing at Yankee Stadium and I saw Joe's McFly and Alex Rodriguez hanging out with Bad Bunny. And I was like, oh, Bad Bunny's a man.
Oh.
I learned that myself a couple years ago.
And he likes going by that name? Like, was that like a bullied nickname that he got and it just stuck with him? And he just leaned into it? That's the thing. If you're in middle school learning this and like someone like makes fun of you and gives you a nickname, the way to make that not bother you is just lean into it.
Yeah.
Like I had kind of poofy hair in 7th grade and like Big Bird. And what I would do when it's to be like, Big Bird, what I do? I'd start flapping my arms. I put Big Bird number 31 on my basketball shoes. If I had Twitter back then, it would have been at Big Bird 31. All right, Justin, let's talk about fucking Quinyon Mitchell and stop talking about big birds and stuff. Big Bird reels are very funny too. So this is the one like bona fide first round guy we're going to talk about. And I wanted to put him in here, Justin, because if the Giants do trade back, this guy would probably be the guy that I'm eyeing. And that is Quinyon Mitchell, the cornerback out of Toledo. 6 foot, 195 pounds, and 31-inch arms. Ran a 4.33 40, 38-inch vertical jump. I don't like to reference the Senior Bowl a ton on these podcasts, Justin, because it's like the film is more important. But for Quinyon, getting to go up against that competition, and even you see film of him versus Ohio State in 2022, he dominated. Like I have not seen a corner dominate down there. Like this guy has the potential to be a shutdown corner. Like he's got the elite speed to run with anybody. His change of direction is smooth, closes quick, and he's just so disciplined while being aggressive at the same time. Like he's just like you cannot work a double move on him. Like a whip route, it's not working. Even like true blue double moves, he's not jumping on those, and you're not going to get a big play off of him. And he's got the physicality to jam and run with guys, and he just doesn't get beat with the release. Like he just does not get beat. And he's got like great ball skills to drive through the ball. You know, he's got 6 interceptions the last 2 years, 27 pass breakups, just unreal production. Really, my only gripe of Quinyon Mitchell is, and off zone coverage, he's just too accepting of keeping that cushion, right? Like it's just when he's in off coverage, he's continuing the backpedal and not trying to close that cushion before the wide receiver makes his break. And then there's sometimes downfield where he'll get his turned around when he's playing that inside leverage. But even then, like he recovers so quickly that I think this guy is going to be a top 15 pick. And I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to top 10, honestly.
No, man, Quinyon Mitchell is one of my favorite players in this entire draft. Blew me away at the Senior Bowl. Blew me away. I think... has there been a player that we've seen just stand out like that since we've been down there? No, and we really watched the O-line, D-line. You know, O-line, D-line, you know, those 1v1s, you know, we're O-line guys. That's kind of like what we like watching. And I know wide receiver DBs, 1v1s, that's what a lot of other people like to watch, you know, fantasy football, whatever. But no, like the best rep of the week was Roman Wilson versus Quinyon Mitchell going 1v1. And the only time that Roman Wilson really beat Quinyon Mitchell was when Mitchell fell down and Wilson made like a diving one-handed catch, and it was awesome. So watching those
even
two
that
guys,
took like 20 seconds. That's like that was like a clear like Senior Bowl 101. You have a million seconds to do the most like crazy release that never happens in a game type shit, right? And like Ricky Pearsall killed it down there, not versus Quinyon Mitchell. Roman Wilson the same. You know, Tez Walker could not get open at all. You know, was able to, you know, get interceptions, and I think he might have been the only one of 2 players to get an interception in one-on-ones.
Rice from USC was running at his full speed, which may be a little bit of a referendum on him. But Rice from USC was running full speed in 1v1s, and Quinyon Mitchell looks like he's jogging and just is able to get a pass breakup and get his hands on a football and just makes it look easy.
Yeah, so he's like really good in the short area, intermediate, and covering the deep part of of the field. Like he's legit, and he went up against Marvin Harrison Jr. in 2022. He didn't get a ton of one-on-ones with him. Now Harrison got a touchdown on him, but it was still great coverage. It was like it like speaks to how special Marvin Harrison Jr. was, where it's like this is really good coverage. CJ Stroud put the ball in a great place too, and that was like the one touchdown he had given up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean this if the Giants trade back, which I am not wanting to do, Quinyon Mitchell is most likely my target.
I agree with you 100%.
It's like offensive tackle or Quinyon Mitchell.
Yeah. He's 22. He's going to be 23 in July. He's 12 on the consensus board and 11 on Brugler's board. Both see Terrion Arnold from Alabama as cornerback 1, though. 2,000 snaps at outside corner in his career. 27 pass breakups the last 2 years. So Bobby and I are looking at a little bit, or pass breakups the last 2 years. I think that's from PFF. But then you have pass deflections. He had 25 pass deflections in 2022 and 19 in 2023. 5 interceptions in 2022 and 1 in 2023. I think people started throwing to him a lot less in 2023. There was a rumored 4.340 before the Senior Bowl, and then guess what? The rumors were right. He ran a 4.3340. All the buzzwords, man. Athletic, twitchy, quick, good foot speed. All the buzzwords, rare athlete, and I think more than any other position, Bobby, I think corner is about traits. And if you have the traits, I think you can get coached up. I think corner, even if you're coming from one of these small schools, you saw it with why am I forgetting the kid from Seattle, the fifth, or Tyreek Woolen. That was a guy that I really liked a couple years back. I know he had a little bit of a rough second year, I think, at certain times, but that traits guy, if your arms are long and if you can run like a deer and you can keep up with these wide receivers, odds are you have a shot at being good in the NFL. So Quinyon Mitchell has got those traits, and he performed extremely well at the Senior Bowl where, yeah, he went to a small school, but he did it dominated against really good competition. Yep.
Speed, change of direction, and length. That's what we're looking for in corners.
Yes.
Justin, next guy we're going to talk about, a guy the Giants had for a top 30 visit, someone who could slip into the second round, and that is Kool-Aid McKinstrey, the cornerback out of Alabama. Here's a fun fact, Justin.
Yes.
This is the first Alabama player we've talked about in this draft cycle. Isn't that crazy? Usually Alabama's right at the top.
There's been a good amount of them, but yeah, this is the first one that we're talking
Arnold, about. We didn't talk about Dallas Turner.
No.
So I guess there's the normal Dallas guys who we're picking at 6, so we're not talking about a lot of mid-first round guys.
Are the Giants, there's an interior defensive lineman with the first name Justin that went to Alabama.
Ebagowie or whatever.
He was at the Senior Bowl. Did the Giants host him for a visit?
No.
Okay.
I don't believe so. So Kool-Aid McKinstrey, the best name in the draft, 5'11", 199 pounds, long 32-inch arms. He... a lot of these guys we're going to talk about, it's going to sound somewhat similar because he is long and he knows how to use his length, right? And against good players too, like Brian Thomas Jr., even some, reps on Neighbors, Adonai Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, knows how to just get that hand on the wide receiver and essentially just ride their shoulder or hip or whatever he's got and just feels the cuts. And he has great anticipation for where the routes are going in man coverage. Half the times these guys were running curls and stuff, he was running the route exactly with them. Two of the notes I have, I think, that tell the story on him is that basic releases, he does a great job. But anytime there were some more longer developing releases, that sidestep release, Adonai Mitchell got him for a touchdown in the Texas game versus LSU on, one of those 3-step diamond slant releases, got him pretty good. Then that's where he gets vulnerable, trying to protect the sideline, and he gets beat on in breaking routes. And he also just doesn't have that long speed or really the makeup speed to make you pay for, trying to fit the ball in there on those ones. So, he is definitely a target for me at 47 if he somehow slips. And I don't think that's the craziest thing in the world.
Yeah, I'm kind of rooting that he does. This is the first player that I found that could be, late first-round pick, early second-round player. This is one of the first players that I'm like fully comfortable with that the Giants have met with being there and taking at 47. But he's 24th on the consensus board and 30th for Brugler, so falling to 47 is quite a long way. Brian Burns, second-round pick, early second-round pick. Maybe you want it back. 21 and a half years old. I'm glad Brian Burns is on the team. 32-inch arms, and I think he uses them effectively, like Bobby says. I think he does a good job staying in phase and staying in the hip pocket of the receiver. I think
really slows their buildup. Like Xavier Worthy, who's super fast, and this is probably the most troubling film for Xavier Worthy. It's like, dude, you got to try some type of different release besides like your basic split release, because he is stopping you from using your speed. He is slowing your speed buildup, and then once he's up to full speed, he can run with you.
So in those standard releases, like Bobby said, I do think he has great footwork and balance. I think Kool-Aid McKinstrey, despite not being like this awesome, tremendous athlete like a Quinyon Mitchell is, I think he's a very balanced football player with good footwork. And I also think he's quick and he can accelerate. Like I think his finishing speed, quickness, and recovery going towards the ball as it gets to the receiver, that's what I think is good. And I think he can finish on a football versus just, hey, having that long speed and you can run like a deer. Maybe not doing that, but he can finish on a football when it's coming towards a receiver. And this is big for me, because Alabama, if you're good at Alabama, obviously it's, it catches your attention draft-wise, but he started as a true freshman in Nick Saban's defense. And I think that goes to show just how smart you have to be. Like, you got to be smart and you got to have your shit figured out. If you're going to be starting on Nick Saban's defense as a true freshman, you got to have everything together. Like kind of like a Minka Fitzpatrick type of path. Third most press coverage snaps in the nation, 25% forced incompletion rate, which is pretty good. And also something that I noticed too, Bobby, I usually get mad at guys who don't turn their head when the ball's coming near to like try and make a play on the ball, because a lot of times that they'll call that pass interference. But he just has this knack for like timing up the receivers, like
he reads their hand. Like I have a note, solid ball skills fighting through the wide receiver's hands. Like he reads the wide receiver's hands and then punches through it. There's a couple other guys we're gonna talk about who do that as well too. But yeah, he does do that well.
Yeah, 8.1% missed tackle rate, which is good for a CB. It's low. Didn't miss a game in 3 years. Hey, and if you're wondering, why did the ball production go down? He doesn't get a lot of interceptions, but why did the ball production go down from 2022 to 2023? Because he had 16 pass deflections in 22 and then only 7 in 2023. Yeah, it's not because he missed games. It's because his targets were cut in half. He got 80 targets in 2022, and then I think 39 in 2023. So literally 16 and 7, cut in half. How do you like that?
So now his long speed isn't very good, and guys can separate as the play develops. Now he does a good job of not getting stacked, but when he does, it's kind of over. Like he can get beat deep. Now the ball usually didn't come that way, so it doesn't really show up on the stat sheet. But that's why I think Kool-Aid falls. Is like he doesn't have that great speed, and there is some ugly reps. Like I mean, the slant that Adonai Mitchell hit him on that RPO was just like that's like meme cornerback play, like how bad he got cooked on that type of play. You've seen people probably post that a million times. So it's just when you're facing the Devontae Adams, Jacoby, like I know I just faced two Raiders wide receivers, but like these guys who really have the releases set, well, then you can get put behind. And that was an issue we had with Deonte Banks, Justin. But like Deonte Banks has all the athleticism and makeup speed, and I don't think Kool-Aid has that. So that's the worry with Kool-Aid. So, but if he's there at 47, like that, I'd be surprised if he's not like number one on the board for me.
No, I'm hoping he falls because I would love that pick. I'd be all in.
Yeah. All right, Justin. The next guy we're going to talk about. Do you know how to pronounce his name?
No, he was going to be a Senior Bowl guy, and I think your attempt at it pre-show was the best that I've heard.
Mike Sainristil?
Sainristil?
Sainristil. Cornerback out of Michigan. 5'9", 182 pounds, 30 and 7/8 arms. Former wide receiver, Justin, who he's like in 2021, he was a wide receiver at Michigan, and he'll be a nickel-only cornerback in the NFL. This guy kind of just plays like a badass. He's an effective blitzer in the run. He had 4 sacks and 16 pressures this last year. He's a really good run defender. He has a specialized role, so it's like where do you take a guy who's he's a clear nickel only corner. Never will play outside in the NFL. Like, I struggle with where he should go, Justin, but he is a fun ass watch to watch him at Michigan.
Yeah, I took him in the first round of the JM football mock draft for the 49ers. I feel a little bit bad about that. Like, I think I would have taken Kool-Aid. He might have already went. He's 50 on the consensus board, 43 on
the Lions.
Yeah, 43 on Brugler. He's 23 and a half years old with 30 and 7/8 inch arms. 6 interceptions in 2023. I think that's the first thing that sticks out. And Bobby, you mentioned that he played wide receiver. Okay. I want to dive into that a little bit more. 2019, plays wide receiver. 8 catches, 145 yards, 1 touchdown. 2020, played wide receiver. 7 catches, 82 yards, 2 touchdowns. 2021, played wide receiver. 21 catches, 305 yards, 2 touchdowns. Then switches to DB in the spring practices in 2022. Right away, honorable mention All Big Ten, 2022. And then 2023 takes a step up where he has 12 pass deflections, 6 interceptions. Like I said, he's the first team All-American, second team All Big Ten, led the team in pass deflections, interceptions, and he also was a team captain. Team captain the last 2 years, by the way, playing a new position in 2022. So coaches rave about this. Like, they rave about this guy. He's already a good football player, where I think some of the questions are, hey, he's actually not the greatest athlete. I think he is a good athlete, but he's not the greatest athlete. I think that's also why you're going to go in the slot. So, typically these guys in the slots aren't, they're not catching the ball 40, 50 yards down the field.
He's got good, short area athleticism, which, again, he's playing nickel. That's where you're going to need it the most.
He's an under control player, but he's also aggressive. He is a little bit older. So, it's tough when you have a guy that's a little bit older that still needs some refinement. But I feel like some of the things that he does need to work on, it can be coached, and some of it is to be sometimes a little bit more patient, not play so aggressive like in the run game. And I feel like you'd rather have to coach patience versus the want to make a play or coaching aggressiveness in a guy. And man, I don't know, like his path as a football player and his path to being a defensive back and his path to being possibly a first-round player, early second-round player is nuts. Only being a defensive back for 2 years and already being this good, it just makes you feel like he can continue to grow because he's only played the position for 2 years.
Yeah. So it is projection, and he doesn't have a ton of out of all these guys, he probably got the least amount of, I don't know the numbers behind it, but I don't know how much, he doesn't have a ton of man coverage experience. And when he is in it, he looks good. He's sticky once he's in phase. He's not like working the undercut or anything, which is, you would like to see him do well, but he does well at the release. And then, zone coverage, yeah, there's things he needs to get better at, right? Like, got to get a better understanding of route combinations. Got to close the cushion when you're in there. But like you said, he has the ball production. He's a hell of a run defender. Just taking on blocks and tackling. You can use him as a blitzer off the nickel. He loves to, trigger into the flats and make big hits. Like, he's going to be a nickel only corner. So the question is, where do you draft a 5'9" nickel corner? But he is fun. He is fun to watch. Yeah,
I agree 100%.
The next guy, Justin, is the other guy I'm comfortable with at 47. Obviously not as much as Kool-Aid, but it's Ennis Rakestraw, the cornerback out of Mizzou. 5'11", 183 pounds, so not a big frame, but some decently long arms at 32 inches. Ran a 4.5 140. He is, again, I feel like we're just repeating the same notes with a lot of these guys, but he's strong, physical cornerback who plays with discipline, though. And again, another guy who doesn't have that long speed, but does have a really good quick change of direction. But he's just so good at the release, and he's probably the most physical out of these guys. Like, he just jams guys up and just truly disrupts wide receivers. And then he carries the vertical really well. He has great anticipation. And and his length allows him to get like into the catch space. So, and he closes and like clicks and closes on the quick game. Had a couple pass breakups on Brian Thomas Jr. on some underneath routes where you would think Brian Thomas Jr. would pull away from him, and he wasn't able to do it. And then, like smart and disciplined in zone. He is him and Kool-Aid are the two corners I would be like okay with at 47.
Giants meet with him?
No. I mean, he ran a 4.5 140. That's not very good. But he has length. He's a disciplined, smart player, and he really disrupts wide receivers.
Consensus 38. Brugler has him for 49. So that's right near the Giants range.
I'd probably have him right around where Brugler has him.
21, he's going to be 22 in June. You mentioned the 32-inch arms. Production in 2022 was good. He missed time in 2023 and through his 4 years at school. He tore his ACL in 2021, and there was a groin injury that kept him out for 4 games this past year. Plus, I believe he didn't run either at his pro day or the combine, maybe both, and I think groin was attributed to both of missing some of those events and some of those workouts. Lance Zierlein's NFL player comp, Roger McCreary, and that's not going to be the first the last time that Roger McCreary
that makes sense because
as a player comp.
But McCreary had short arms, right? Like he does play very similar to McCreary, but McCreary, the thing was like, how do you play that brand of ball with 28, 29-inch arms, whatever it was?
Yeah.
How has Roger McCreary turned out in the NFL?
He's still starting for Tennessee, but
That's not
that
the
also
biggest
could
compliment
be
in the world.
that could be out of necessity. could be out of necessity, but
yeah, I mean that is a comp that makes sense. But he has
they're very different size wise. Yes, very different. Like McCreary had the smallest of arms, and 32-inch arms are pretty damn good. I like Rakestraw. He seems like he has a little swagger to him. Like he's a wave the no finger on a bad QB throw guy. He's a hard-nosed competitor. Bobby, I think he could play the slot. I mean, he has the length to play on the outside, but also
I think
because
he's an outside guy.
I
guess
the note of
outside guys can move into the slot, so I think he can too. But I do think he's an outside guy in the NFL.
I have the note. Think he fits best in the slot because of his size / weight. He is a little lighter, and his run defense. And you mentioned his long speed. You mentioned his long speed. I think I want my outside corners being a little bit faster to defend the deep ball. So with that lack of long speed, but I think his foot speed and his change of direction is pretty good. I think you can handle the speedy slots. And I'm also just a big fan of, instead of having my slot corner be small as shit, why not put a little bit of a bigger slot guy that isn't so fast, put him in the slot, so then he could be physical at the line of scrimmage. That's at least that was at least my thinking with Wink Martindale. It may change with Shane Bowen. So yeah, I'm quite interested. 2022 had a lot better ball production, 13 passes deflected, and then missed time in 2023 with some injuries.
Let's talk about Max Melton. And we weren't going to talk about him because we did him on the Fallout Pod, but I was like, you know what? Whenever there's a Rutgers guy worth talking about who did go to the Giants local day, and he didn't work out there. They basically treated it like a top 30 visit, but it didn't count as one. And that's Rutgers' own Max Melton, Justin. Probably one of the first guys I watched.
Senior Bowl.
Talked about him on Full Auto. Had watch him at the Senior Bowl. Everyone loves Max Melton. Are you moving him to the nickel? Because I feel pretty strongly that I think he should move to nickel at the NFL.
What's his height and weight?
5'11", 187, and he's got long arms, 32 and 1/8 inch arms.
I think he can play inside and outside. But yes, I agree where slot corner can be and maybe should be his home. But I do think he has inside outside versatility.
I think his testing is better than his actual athleticism. He had a 4.39 40.5 inch vertical jump. I think he has good long. I think he's the opposite. He has good long speed, but he doesn't have the makeup. There's time whenever he gets put behind, he stays behind. I think of the Roman Wilson crossing touchdown.
That's fair.
And that's why I see him and he's a hip watcher, right? So he stays connected, but if he loses that, he just has a hard time getting back into the catch space.
Yeah. He was 57 on the consensus board and 63 on Brugler's board, so that's around Giants territory. Again, I don't know if I feel comfortable at 47, but I kind of feel more comfortable at 70, but you never know. Just turned 22, 75th percentile arms. Did you know he's the brother of Bo?
Bo Melton. We love Bo Melton around here.
I think he has solid route recognition, and he reads the QB's eyes very well.
Very much so.
I think he's a scheme, not a scheme-dependent player. I think he's versatile. Like, I think he can play zone, but then I also think, obviously, he has the length. I think he does have, maybe not the best speed, but I think he does have the speed and the physicality to also play in man coverage as well. Great feel for zone coverage, covering the man in your zone, not just your grass. Experience plus. He has a ton of experience throughout the years. He has a high missed tackle rate, 2023. I think he plays like a fucking madman at times.
He's a feisty run defender. Like, and he gets off blocks, probably better than anybody that we're talking about in this. We're just simply not just tackling, but getting off of blocks.
Yeah.
And
so
then,
I love the way that he plays the run, even though he has a high missed tackle rate. But I love the way that he plays it. He's a feisty player. He's going to compete every single rep, and partially like with his physicality and his willingness to play the run. I think that's also why he should mainly be a slot corner. I think it's not because he has to be, but I think it's such an advantage to have a feisty guy playing the nickel and then playing the run like that. I think that can serve to you as an advantage. And Bobby, now that Greg Schiano's back, and he's been back for a couple years with Rutgers now, the future governor of New Jersey, when Rutgers actually wins a significant bowl game, this feels like an old school Greg Schiano player. Mm-hmm. Who, like, with this competitive toughness, will be a good NFL player. Like, even back Logan Ryan, the McCourty brothers. It feels like that Max Melton's going to have an NFL career possibly like that to those guys. And
he seems like those guys, like McCourty guys. I'm hearing the sonic boom. There's a launch going off at Cape Canaveral. Here's why I think he belongs in the nickel, is because he's the best. His best version of Max Melton is in that first 1.5 seconds of the route. Like, it's physical with his jams. Now he can get over his skis and it'll leave him behind. But if you're a slot receiver and you get jammed up, like that kind of gets you out of the progression. And it's just the longer the play, this is a big sonic boom. The longer the play develops, the more vulnerable he gets to give up separation down the field and stuff. Like, he's given up 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns. 12 touchdowns the last 3 years. He's been a good player, but he is vulnerable to giving up some big plays. And then, like you said, with like the way he plays the run, to me, he feels like a perfect fit in the slot.
I agree. I wouldn't be mad if he's a Giant. I feel like it's a reach at 47. Hope he falls to 70.
Yeah, I would like to take him at. He's definitely in play for me at 70. Justin, next guy on this list is Andru Phillips, the cornerback out of Kentucky, 5'11", 190. He's talented, but I do think he has a good amount of stuff to figure out. He looks to stop the big play, and he's got the speed to do it, but I think he's almost sometimes a little too conservative and too trusting in his ability, right? Because his change of direction and burst is great, right? Like, it pops off the screen. This sonic boom is still going. I'm missing this launch. I hope it didn't blow up. His the way he's able to like just transition really smooth, burst is awesome. So it allows him to get into plays that you didn't think he would be in. But he's just like a little too conservative when any receiver like gets past 8 yards. He will kind of get into that bail, and he gives up a lot of like curl routes and underneath types of routes because he gives that cushion that's not really built into the defensive scheme. It's just him, giving that cushion. But he's got his quickness to close that cushion is deadly. So like, and he's physical, like basically all these guys that we're going to talk about, right? Like, he keeps his feet kind of wide in his release, which I know a lot of cornerback coaches don't like that, but Sauce Gardner is someone who does that. And I think if you can land that, man, like, it just gives you a good ability to press and then gather, and not overextend too much. So I think he's got a good amount to figure out, but he is talented. He was a top 30 visit for the Giants, and I don't think the coaching is far, like the coaching points are far off. We got to fix this major type of stuff.
I don't know, man. This is one of the first guys that I'm openly going to say I kind of don't hope the Giants draft him. And for it's simple for me.
Bad tackling, which I didn't bring up.
No, not even that. Even though you will now, yes, because he has a 23.1% missed tackle rate, and I did write that down. He allows catches, man.
Yeah.
He allowed 39 catches this year on 58 targets. That's 67.2% completion rate, 4 touchdowns, 438 yards. And I sometimes don't think it's fair. Like I'm a stats guy, but I'm not going through every single one of these players saying their receptions and targets. But for Andru Phillips, I feel like it's necessary. He's 104th on the consensus board, 61 on Brugler. That's quite a difference. He's 22. He only has 2 years of real starting experience. He has some experience in the slot and on the outside. Bobby, I initially wrote down day 3 player, and I think that's really mean now because he's
104th on consensus. That's the beginning of day 3.
Yeah. So but originally because he was going to the Senior Bowl or he went to the Senior Bowl. So I looked at him a little bit because I really wanted to focus on cornerbacks this year. And that was like one of my last thoughts. It's like day 3 player because there's looking at the numbers and looking at him just kind of from that bird's eye view. Not great. 0 interceptions in 2 years. So he doesn't even play the ball all that much. High missed tackle rate, high completion rate allowed. I feel like he doesn't turn his head to play the ball all that much.
Yeah, he's prone to penalties with that shit. Like, one, he'll be at the stem. He will just kind of like be way too handsy. And then at the catch point, there was plenty of times where it's like, turn your head. Instead, you're face guarding and you're getting a penalty instead of, maybe having an interception or a pass breakup.
Now, they played a lot of zone at Kentucky, where I feel like with his physicality, I could see a path to possible success in man coverage. If that's if I'm having him on a top 30 visit, I'm going through Kentucky film, and I'm like, well, hey, we may ask you to do this. Well, what do you think you can do here? If we ask you to do something different, if we're playing more Shane Bowen wants to play more cover 1, right? He's also going to play a lot of cover 3. But I feel like they played a ton of zone at Kentucky, and maybe that didn't fit Andru Phillips' strengths, right?
I think he can get a lot, but like zone coverage, you can get better. Like he has great burst to close cushion. It was just like if they are running like a 8-yard hitch at that 7-yard, he's bailing. Right, and it's just easy for their wide receiver. It's like, okay, he's not trying to really contest this. He's trusting his burst and his change of direction too much. Yeah. But he does have the talent, and you do see like the physicality. He's a competitive run defender, despite all the missed tackles. But yeah, to me, he's someone you got to work on. He's not someone you plug and play right away like you do Max Melton. He has to be coached up. But I do think there's like day 2 talent.
My final really negative note is when the play breaks down after 3 seconds, so does he, which I don't love that at the NFL level either. After 3 seconds, you still got to be able to cover guys, and you can't let guys come wide open because that's when you can really get some explosive plays, and you can allow some explosive plays when plays break down like that. And Dane Brugler, instead of Lance Zierlein, has Phillips reminding him of Roger McCreary.
Everyone's damn Roger McCreary in this damn draft.
I bring it up because of the bow and tie. That's why I really bring it up.
Oh, Roger McCreary ass. Remember Roger McCreary versus Jamar Chase? We're like, yeah, did he give up 6 catches for 80 yards? But he also had a few pass breakups in that game. All right, so then the last 2 guys we're going to talk about, Justin, are 2 top 30 visits, but we're also going to talk about a guy who we really like.
And that's the guy that we really like. His name is Cushy. And oh boy, did he have a dream. And, funny enough, Bobby Skinner, I think it's on Saturday. Where did the phrase 420 come from? Is it named after a police code for a marijuana violation? Or is it Justin's Little League batting average? Whoa.
They put that in there? That's messed up. Actually, that's good.
That's good. Don't say it's messed up. It's actually fantastic. However it started, it's a real holiday on April 20th, and we're celebrating with our friends at Cushy Dreams. It's the finest in legal cannabis. They specialize in things to help you relax. Go do it. and on the floor and chill, like smokable Delta 8 CBD flower and some really great gummies. Their Delta 9 THC gummies contain the same type of THC as the stuff they only sell at the dispensary. And guess what? You don't even have to leave your home because Cushy Dreams, you can go online, cushydreams.com. And at checkout, you can use promo code JOHNBOY420, heyo, for 30% off your next order. That's a different code than usual. And it's bigger savings. Yeah. Plus, 4 people who use this special 420 promo code will be entered to win $50 in store credit. So you get 30% off your next order and then win an additional $50 if you just use that JOHNBOY420 code, which is insane. So use JOHNBOY420 for 30% off your next order and also be entered into a chance to win $50 in store credit so you can get more Cushy Dreams gummies. Cushy Dreams, you'll be glad you did.
The last two guys, we're going to talk about, Justin, are small school. I guess Washington State's not that small, but it's a smaller school, and their top 30 visits for the Giants. And we saw Trey Hawkins get drafted from a small school. Try that in a small school on a top 30 visit.
Yeah, try that.
First guy we're going to talk about is Chau Smith-Wade. Chau, cornerback out of Washington State.
Is it Cho or Chow?
Chau. Like,
Sure.
They make fun of the one guy in the office. Chau. What's that guy's name? The string bean? When the show started to suck?
Gabe.
Gabe, yeah, that's what it was. Chau. 5'10", 184, 30 and a quarter inch arm, so not the best size profile. His testing was pretty damn bad at the combine, too. Ran a 4.54 40, 7.05 3 cone, 4.32 shuttle. Those are just all like we're bottom 3 for corners at the combine. Another physical cornerback, Justin, who could maybe move to the slot. Like, his long speed is just not good. He gets beat vertically. But his change of direction is solid and smooth. Justin, I watched him versus Oregon in one of the games, and Troy Franklin beat him pretty good a couple of times, right? Where he just gets beat deep. So he's just not going to be able to live on the outside in the NFL with that athletic profile. But he does have like loose hips for smooth transitions and good change of direction. And again, physical jams to keep him connected. Like, he's really disruptive when he gets hands on you. He can be over aggressive, but he is disruptive. The other thing is, I think he's really good at like reading wide receivers to poke the ball out through his hands for pass breakups. But hey, he's solid taking on blocks. There's some box reps where they would literally line him up on the tight end and slam him inside. He's a good tackler. So if he doesn't have like a horrible athletic disadvantage, he's a pretty solid player. Like, I put him as a 5th rounder, and I wasn't expecting to do that.
I think he's also really good at reading receivers at the line of scrimmage, too. I think you went with a little bit of a different route, but I think he's really good at reading and reacting to what the receivers are going to do at the line of scrimmage. It all starts with his feet. He's 21 years old. I mean, I think you mentioned that he's probably going to have to move to the slot. He's going to have to move to the slot.
Yeah, he can't play with that athletic profile on the outside.
You can't be 5'9", 184 pounds with that athletic profile playing outside. 157 on the Consensus Sports 6th-round grade for Brugler. 30 and 1/4 inch arms. So, hey, even for being super, super small, he's still got arms over 30 inches. Thumbs up from me. Really good stable metrics, like his coverage grade after, the time to throw of 3 seconds, which that's something that I like. Mentioned it with Andru Phillips, how he's not very good. And also a very high forced incompletion rate. I think it's around 25%, which is good. Change of direction and quickness is great. And his feet are so fast and light. And I love that. And at the line of scrimmage, it's really important. 0 penalties in 2023. Yeah, so he can get a little aggressive and he may get in trouble in the NFL, but he didn't get in trouble in college. He's not afraid to get his nose dirty as a tackler, but 21.3% missed tackle rate. He's an ankle diver. We have an ankle diver on our hands, ladies and gentlemen. He's a team captain. Good football. And this is one of those guys where he's a good football player, despite the lack of athleticism and size. He plays hard. He's played tough, and apparently he's matured through his years at Washington State. We love growth.
Maturity. I don't like maturity. Actually, I do. Justin, last guy we're going to talk about another top 30 visit.
I want to make this clear. I think these last 2 guys that we're talking about, Smith-Wade and our last friend, I think they are like some of the best chances at being Giants out of all the players we've talked about this draft season so far.
It's a lock. It's a lock that one of these guys is being drafted in the 6th round by the Giants. It's a lock. Lock it up. Lock it up. Chigozie, Chig, and Anusiem. And you see him, now you don't. That's how it goes. You know, look up his name. You can look it up on the description. It's Chigozie Anusiem. Cornerback out of Colorado State, 6'1", 200 pounds, 32 and a quarter inch arms. This guy does fit the size profile. And guess what, Justin? Guess what? Guess what is one good thing about him? He's physical. He's a big physical cornerback who played a primarily zone scheme. Now he has the long speed, like you said, but like the opposite of Chau, he doesn't have like the quickness and change of direction that he does, but he's physical to get his hands on guys and really stick in the hip. And I think he does really well from a trail technique to get the inside leverage, which, you know, a lot of corners aren't comfortable playing that trail, you know, from behind technique, and Chigozie does feel really good like doing that. That being said, there's some pretty alarming negatives with him. Bad ball skills, right? Like out of all these guys we've talked about, he has the worst ball skills. He doesn't turn his head and will give up back shoulders, and only had 1 interception the last 2 years, 10 pass breakups, 2 this previous season. Like he doesn't let guys get over the top of him, but he does give up stuff underneath. He is someone who has given up a 65% completion rate and doesn't have good ball skills, and has given up 4 touchdowns, and this while playing at Colorado State.
Yeah, he's 347th on the consensus board, and Dane Brugler has a 7th round grade. I think this is the lowest guy that we've talked about rating-wise, ranked-wise so far.
And on my big board too.
On your big board too. 32 and 1/4 inch arms, 23. Has like a 85th to 90th percentile 40-yard dash. Fun fact, Colorado was a cover 3 heavy scheme, and he has
play primarily zone scheme.
Well, cover 3 specifically, and he has the
Can I say something? Fuck Colorado State.
Whoa.
Their defense sucked. Everyone thinks cover 3, and then Bill Belichick and Nick Saban created cover 3 man match, where if you're playing cover 3, the easiest way to beat it was just be run 4 verts, run people up the seam. Well, that middle field safety can only cover 1 player. So they created the thing. If you're vertical, you play with outside leverage, and the slot defender carries it vertical. They didn't do that. So they would leave this, like Shedeur Sanders was just hitting balls up the seam. And I think Chigozie got credited for giving him a touchdown when it's like, this guy was in a no-win situation here because this player's up the seam. So I just wanted to say, Colorado State was pissing me off with some of their, like, no wonder, Colorado had that big comeback and scored 47 points on you, whatever it was.
Well, the main point I'm bringing up, Colorado State, cover 3 heavy scheme, and he has the size/speed to play in cover 1, and that's what Shane Bowen likes to run. I also find that he gets blocked downfield a good amount. I think he doesn't need to do a better job of like shedding and detaching. Because Colorado State's defense was bad. Found there to be a good amount of runs where they're getting past the line and then he's just down there getting his ass kicked. So then he has to break off and it's a big run where it could have been stopped a little bit earlier. I think he wraps up. Doesn't miss a ton of tackles. I think he stays in the hip pocket of receivers on vertical routes down the field. Speed and quickness of the NFL is probably the biggest question for me. And this is kind of the Trey Hawkins effect, where you have a guy that's physical, you have a guy that's fast, but you get to the speed and quickness in the NFL, and it's a whole other different level. But I think
bad ball skills too, like Trey Hawkins.
I think the traits here's the thing, Bobby. I think the traits, Giants don't have a 7th round pick. The traits in the 6th round make me happy enough if they did choose to take him with that final 6th round pick. Like, again, cornerback is a traits-driven position in the NFL, and maybe you can hit on a guy with really long arms and he runs fast, and maybe he turns into a good NFL player. Odds like I'd almost rather that than maybe even like a low-level receiver or a guy that maybe a defensive lineman that's maybe a little bit more boring. I'd rather take a chance on a corner like that than definitely quarterback. than any other position. So 0 pass interference penalties in 2023. Didn't get called for him, at least.
Because he didn't even look for the ball. That's why. All right, that's an episode. We will see you guys on Monday for our final draft preview of the wide receivers. We will see you then. Until then, let's go Big Blue.